show you a totally separate thing, which is our map of all the strains that we have and how they're related right at the end. But I'll let Rob lead into it. Thank you.
Well, welcome all of you. It's great to see you here. I normally don't do science talks in a pub. This is really cool. And there's a lot of hop going around in this pub, and we're into hop being the closest relative of cannabis. So good on for Cascadia and Humulus. I kind of feel like I don't have anything to say. Dennis gave us such a great... Yeah, you forgot your beer. Yeah, you forgot his hop sample. Dennis gave us a great introduction to how genetics works. Classical, Mendelian breeding and all this. And what I'm going to try to do is show you some of the basic building blocks that led to what we have today. I've called myself a taxonomist because I take a very broad view of taxonomy. But if there are any classical taxonomists in the house, we'll butt heads later, all right? But for now, I just want to talk about how I see the taxonomy of cannabis. And because I live in a cave, Bethany, God bless her, is going to flip through my slides here. The way I sort of see the cannabis as we have it today is 4 groups. You can call it taxonomy or not. You can avoid the Latin names if you want. But basically we have European hemp, okay? And the other hemp we have is East Asian hemp, all right? And these 2 gene pools are very important to hemp breeding, industrial hemp breeding. The combination of these 2 gene pools in the early 20th century led to the hybrid hemp varieties that we have today. And it's important to realize this concept of hybrid vigor. Dennis touched on this earlier. It's bringing together of heterozygous gene pools, ones that are not true breeding necessarily, or they can be, but by the time you combine them, they make a mix. Okay, and due to this hybrid vigor, which is usually applied to mammals, and you still get extra life energy and good combinations of genes that otherwise wouldn't exist. So this has led to hemp breeding as we know it today. These other 2 groups that people often these days called sativa and indica, I would state this is erroneous on all levels, but let's call them pre-Afghan and Afghan and post-Afghan. Okay, if we want to bring it down to the level we operate on in this group, we had what are euphemistically called sativas. They were the narrow-leafed drug varieties, everything that was here before the late 70s, early 80s when Afghans showed up. This was California, West Coast Sinsemilla as we always knew it. Same stuff you guys grew here. It had a lot of advantages. It didn't mold hardly at all. You could leave it out in the rain, and powdery mildew we never saw. Botrytis was not such a big issue. Okay, they weren't quite so potent as we like today, but they had a lot of variability. They had a lot of different things to bring to the table. They weren't quite so similar altogether as the modern fuel hybrids that are running around today. And we'll get there at the end of this talk. But I want to talk about these basic building blocks. And then Afghan came in, and this changed the whole picture. This brought stuff that could go short, fast, stinky, high resin content. They were bred for hashish production. They were not bred for marijuana production like the original varieties. And the fusion of these 2 has brought us what we have today. And this is an amazing thing that's gone on. So let's look at the basic gene pools first. We've got narrow leaflet hemp. This is the European hemp. All right, we can move through these pretty quick. This was originally named by Carlos Linnaeus, Carl von Linné. Continue. That there are hemp varieties. They're grown for industrial hemp usually. This is quite different looking from what we see here in, well, up till now in Oregon. You're about to have legislation that allows you to do this again. Continue. And it was used for twine and cordage and so on. And it was, the maritime link is very important. It was part of colonizing, Western colonization of the rest of the world. This is an important historical event. Go on. And it escapes. It's a wild plant. This is in Hungary. This is an escaped landrace. Maybe Tibor Szalasi, that was the land race grown in Hungary before modern breeding in the 70s, 1970s. And it escapes at other places. This is in Kazakhstan. But it's the same sort of cannabis. And there it is. There's some Uzbek horse eating it on the side of the road. And this all, we think, this is only a hypothesis. This is to be corroborated or disproven. It doesn't really matter by genome work, by this kind of stuff that Phylos Bioscience is doing. And we'll have a much better handle on this history. But what we think now is that we had two basic groups that evolved quite independently. When the Pleistocene glaciations were over and humans started taking over, they found populations, maybe in this hypothesis, in the Caucasus Mountains. And those spread to be what we consider hemp, and they spread into Central Eurasia and became the wild varieties called ruderalis. But if there was a common ancestor to hemp, which there must have been, it's probably extinct today. So it would be difficult to go find anything that we could truly call a precursor to either the hemp or drug populations. And they spread all over. This is all what we'd look from archaeological data. We find all kinds of findings 2,000 to 5,000 years ago all over Europe. Then this guy Lamarck comes along. Well, we've all heard about Lamarckian genetics. And Lamarck basically said that it was more environmental influence that was important and less the genetic influence. So he's been poo-pooed for this. But this guy was a taxonomist, and he was the first guy who saw cannabis from India, medical cannabis, not hemp, the other, all the rest of the world's cannabis besides Western Europe. Part of it was Indian cannabis. And he was the first one to see Indian medical cannabis and consider it a separate species. So that's how we came up with cannabis indica. This is argued over ad infinitum today, tomorrow, and probably the rest of my life. But this is it. This is what the British Commonwealth was farming in India back in the day. These are ganja farms from probably, I don't know, eastern India somewhere. But same sort of thing. These are government photos from back in the day, 1880s, 1890s, this sort of thing. And it's escaped all over India too, but it looks quite a bit different. This is up in Meghalaya province. And it goes feral. This is Nepal. It's a huge plant. I mean, that's a normal sized woman. This is a big plant. So they do very well and escaped into human disturbed environments like this drainage ditch. It's huge. This is the religious cannabis. This is the cannabis that had THC in it. The whole different cultures use this in a different way from Western Europeans, especially in South Asia, India, these areas. And this, of course, cannabis has lots of resin glands, and the resin glands contain the active constituents, especially THC, that we've been after for millennia, probably. And they're tiny little glands. Beautiful photos. I like this stuff. And this is Nepal. This is an example of a place where cannabis is, a standing crop of cannabis is used for all three major products. Seed for food, fiber for clothing and rope, in this case weaving, and the drug product, hashish, charas in this case, hand-rubbed hash. And I know American labor laws would be kind of bummed, but this is 3 generations of women utilizing cannabis. At this moment in time, they're rubbing the seeds out to eat later and collecting the resin that sticks to their hands. and they're saving the stalks to extract the fiber. Use that. So this is probably the model that was seen all around the world back in the day when subsistence farmers used cannabis for whatever the use they had as a primary use. I doubt they wasted much of anything. That's just not local farming practice. So the three products: you get your cloth, you get the seeds for food, and you get the charas, the resin. So these are just, we'll go through these quickly. These are varieties from Thailand. This is a Mexican variety grown in California in the 70s. Another Mexican variety, Acapulco Gold, also from a long time ago. And this is Haze, original Haze from Santa Cruz. These were land races and then early hybrids. This is a hybrid between different pre-Afghan land races, Mexican, Colombian, and Thai in this case. And the other varieties before this are land races. These are that came in smuggled, imported marijuana. We got the seeds. And those were grown. They represented pretty much what the local farmers are growing at the time. And that's what we started with. We started with land races. These are the basic building blocks, whether they're from Colombia, Mexico, Jamaica, Thailand, or later on from Afghanistan. And that's what brings us to what we're seeing today, these basic building blocks. I don't know if you remember when cannabis looked like this. This is 1978. This is pre-Afghan. This was good gauge, bros and sisters. This was good stuff. We didn't really need to go Indo and sneak under lights and do this Afghan thing, that we started to do. We were okay back then. And I kind of favor that stuff. So roots, maybe we could go back to these landrace roots. Those are Mexican, basically. 5 different Mexicans growing in my backyard. This is cool. So we'll review again. We have the narrow leaf drug varieties, originally called indica. They're more mold tolerant. They have medium THC levels, medium CBD levels on average. They're native to climates other than what we have here, more tropical, more equatorial. And they usually take more than 10 weeks to mature, which kind of queered the deal for a lot of growers. 10 weeks is a long time. In the face of helicopters and lighting bills and every other facet, these just got left out. And then we move on to what's euphemistically called indica. These are the Afghan varieties. This is Richard Schultes, the man who brought this to us, really, because the Brotherhood of Eternal Love paid for him to go to Afghanistan to prove their point in federal court that the laws against cannabis were against cannabis sativa. So this is the first evidence for the other species since the time of Lamarck. All right? And Richard Evans Schultes, who is my mentor and was a great guy, this is provided by his son Neil, and this is Schultes in Afghanistan. This picture has caused all kinds of problems. Look at this. This is Cousin It, right? A few of you have seen Cousin It. This is a one leafy bugger. They didn't even bother to harvest it. This is in December. See the back of this? This is an empty hashish field, acres. What Schultes found when he got there was a little male that was flowering out of season. It was some feral seed drop, maybe from harvesting 2 months before, and near an irrigation ditch probably, and these grew. But they were not really typical. This is a picture from 1973 or 4 from someone's backyard in Mazar-e Sharif in northern Afghanistan. There's nothing really for scale, but this is, you see a little roof line up here. But